together. We're going to start to do this series every month going forward, mainly because who knows when we can all come back together again, and we still want to bring value and we still want to connect in some ways. So as always, if you have topics that you want to hear, I'd love to know. Contact Amy, put it in the chat bar over here. We check that, and we'll start rolling those topics out. We've got a couple good issues coming up in September too, beyond today. I'm really excited about today, but let me give you a quick update on Brian, on my life. We had 9 cases of COVID in our office after the 4th of July. Go figure what everyone did after the 4th of July. Everyone went to the beach. I did not get it. I was tested. I'm good. Nobody seriously, which was good. A couple people were down for a week, week and a half, but mainly was asymptomatic. So that was good. That was good. But we have our office, and I'm sharing this with you because there's always a lot of dialogue on what other companies are doing. We went back to kind of a 1/3 rotation. So 10, 12 people in every day, still rotating out, trying to keep people in pods. And we don't know when we're going to stop doing that. The other issue that we're wrestling with, and I've talked to several chairman circle members about this, is what's going to happen with salaries? What's going to happen with bonuses at the end of the year? How much cash reserves do we need to plan for 2021? And I just got done listening to David Waddell give a great presentation. He's pretty hopeful on the economy, Jasmine, for 2021. I'm probably going to have him back on, Amy. So, Amy, let's see if he'll share that new updated presentation. Some tough things for Memphis, but the national economy looks good. So that'll be kind of good. The other thing I've been doing is learning how to use a balance board for mountain biking. I got Duncan on here. He's a fellow rider, and I'm terrible at it. My coach has me balancing on this little board, and I think what I'll do as a fundraiser for maybe St. Jude is my coach is going to have me do a 180. That's what she says she's going to have me do. I'm not going to be able to do it, but I'm supposed to stand on this balance board, jump, and turn around, and I'm going to probably break an ankle, but I figure it would be a really funny video for you all to watch me breaking my ankle on this balance board like a kid. So that's what I'm up to. I'd love to hear about what's going on in you all's world. And if we want to have more round robin with one of these and share interesting things about how we're dealing with the economy, I think that would be great. So I would like to get my favorite person at Independent Bank on deck right now. I've got a few questions for Linda Barnes, Executive Vice President of Retail Banking over at Independent Bank. And thanks for being with us again.
Yeah, hi, Brian. It's good to be with everybody.
Yeah, and thanks for sponsoring it. So once again, they're the sponsor of this program, so they're the ones that are helping to provide all this tech and support and everything. So thank you. How do you feel about this term, new normal?
Linda? Yeah, I'm ready for it to just be normal. And around our branch group especially, we're trying to just say our normal is trying to stay in connection with our customers. So that's the new about it, because we're having to be creative in how we do that. But whether it's running out to somebody's car because they don't feel like they can do it, or we email, we send articles that we come across industry-wise out to our customers. We're just trying to stay connected, and that is normal for us, not new. It's just the way we do it is new. So
I thought it was really impactful when we were doing our pregame. You talked about when does it not become new anymore, and it's just normal. And yeah. I don't know, my prediction in April, early May was plan on 12 to 18 months, just because of the emotional quotient that goes on. So I think we ought to start thinking about that. But tell me a little bit about what you're hearing about small business. Are they hoarding cash? Are they borrowing money? Do you have any kind of outlook on that, since that is your space?
Yeah, we've actually had some great conversations with our customers about their own space. I think you mentioned it, where people are trying to predict the unknown, what the year end's going to be, how can they continue to take care of their employees. We have seen a slowdown in like asset purchases, so people aren't adding equipment or buying that new thing in order to be adventurous in their business. We're sitting here ready for that, because we do have excess deposits that any bank would love to lend. So I continue to say to my bankers, how important it is to stay involved in their small business customers' world so we can be prepared, because it's an unknown future for us as well. And so just conversations are a little bit different. And so yes, a little bit of hoarding cash, but I think in a productive way to help plan for the unknown.
Yeah, I mean, we as a business with a little under 30 people here, we're wrestling with all those issues too. So I appreciate your advice. And I think in a future, one of these Zoom webinar conferences, I think we really need to, well, if people have questions about that, I'd love to get into that. And if you want to learn more about what other companies are doing, I think we can also do that. So, hey, thank you for sponsoring it again. Right. So let's turn over to the main program. Appreciate it, Linda.
Yep.
So I've got two pretty cool people to share what they're doing to better the business community and better the entire community right now. So maybe if Calvin and Duncan will show their photos. I only like to talk to people right now. It's the only human interaction I get besides the bike, I think, right now. So if I bet most of you have been exposed to Duncan and Calvin. Duncan's company, if you want to invest money, that's the guy you go to, right? He'll be happy to make you more money and do a great job. But also his community involvement is second to none through their sponsorships and the programs, and the fact that he is what he's going to talk about today. He's just donating and digging in and helping his time out. Now, Calvin's one of my mentors with Blue Cross Blue Shield for years, government affairs officer, helped me learn how to do campaigns. And so I'm always nervous around him a little bit. So I'll talk a little quicker. And so he's retired, but he's not really retired. All we did is take up like 80 hours of his week trying to build a better community. So what I'd like to talk about first is a couple teasers before we get into our main topic. And I'd like to know, I know that the pandemic hit, a group of people came together to start trying to figure out what to do. So why don't you just jump in there and we'll interrupt as needed and kind of share with us kind of what's been happening behind the scenes and maybe give us some teasers on where we're headed.
Got it. Want me to take it, Calvin?
Why don't you take it, Duncan?
I'll take it. Well, Brian, thanks. And thanks for everybody being on today. Quickly, I guess it was about mid-April that Beverly reached out to Gary Shorb and I. Was how was the chamber going to react after the COVID had come out? And really, we knew the chamber had to be the economic recovery, had to lead the economic recovery in our community. So we had a few words. We wanted to build a stronger Memphis. We wanted a resilient Memphis, and we wanted a more equitable Memphis. And actually, when we started this conversation, the civil unrest had not even begun. So we were kind of ahead of our time when it came to that. So it fit right into what we're doing. Beverly had asked Gary and I to form a group, and I'll give you the names. It's an unbelievable group of thought leaders in this city that have stood up and are doing great things for our city. So Ben Adams, Calvin, obviously, Joselle Booker, Kathy Buckman Gibson, Chance Carlisle, Johnny Moore, Rick Shadiak, Carol Coletta, and Teresa Sloan have all decided to work on this group. And so we've been into a couple of things. I'm just going to give you a couple examples of stuff we talked to. Calvin's got the meat of the presentation today, so I'm not going to steal his thunder. But one of the things that really came out, and you can imagine, remember, this is April when we started talking, was the digital, the digital divide is what it's being called nationally. But we came up with the name digital empowerment because we knew we had to get these kids, and we had to give the opportunity for them to have that. And so we've learned a lot about it. It's actually some unbelievable things were already happening in the city. So this group was able to kind of get behind that. And I would happy to report that I think we're way ahead of a lot of other cities when it comes to this, and we'll continue to update on that. Some other stuff that has been discussed in the group is continuing to strengthen the local minority and women-owned business. Neighborhood blight has been brought up. The focus on downtown, especially now with the entertainment and the hotel industry kind of going what they're going, to make sure we continue to have what we've been having downtown and the growth down there. Another subject that comes up in a lot of the business stuff is the consolidation of the city and county government, and is it time for that discussion to continue to happen again? And doing business locally. And y'all would love this better than anybody. And as a small business myself, it is important for us to do business with our own. And so we will continue to push that and figure out ways to do it. And always this group will be a huge asset to us on that. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Calvin. He's got the like I said, the meter, the presentation today, which is about the census and how important it is. Once again, thank y'all so much for coming in today. And I just, before we can get onto it, thank you for your support for what Calvin and Brian and I are about to talk to you about. Calvin, all you.
All right, Duncan, thank you. And Brian, thank you for being such an excellent moderator for this session. And thank everybody for tuning in today for this. I think as Duncan pointed out, it was the recognition by Beverly Robinson and the Chamber and those that Duncan indicated came together to look at the gaps that COVID exposed within our community and the way that we might go about from a business community standpoint, leaning in and addressing some of that. And nothing was bigger than the census as we looked at it on long-term and short-term gaps. And the census was the most glaring short-term gap that we felt that needed to be filled. I will sound like Captain Obvious when I tell you that the census occurs once every 10 years. And so the last census was in 2010, so this one comes up in 2020. Now, the importance of the census is the standpoint of having a complete count, because that's what's used by federal and state government to determine the financial resources that's going to come back into Memphis and Shelby County. At present, when we first started looking at this, the response rate or the self-response rate was like at 52%. We set out to try to have a goal of 74% response completion because of the aspect of what that means in the way of dollars that flow back into our community. As a result of the 2010 census count, there's something in the neighborhood of $17 billion that flow into the state of Tennessee on an annual basis. We had calculated that if there was an undercount in the 2020 census by anywhere from 0.8 to 1%, that could mean as much as $8 million per year that would not come into our community over a 10-year period, and you're talking real dollars. That also has something to do with what we have is structured to determining state representative numbers in Nashville and congressional numbers in Washington. So the census is extremely important for economic reasons and extremely important for, quote, policy, political reasons. And that's a good aspect of why the Chamber leadership chose to take this on. And you know, I'm glad to work with the entire group in doing it. We've been able to put together a sort of diverse set of experts and professionals to work with us on it. We're doing this in collaboration with all of the local efforts of city government, county government, United Way, Momentum. And we have, as I said, a couple of really good experts working with us, from Brian Stevens with Caissa to Ron Red Wing with the Red Wing Group, and Mauricio Calvo with Latino Memphis, as we look to target the census tracts that aren't having the same kind of self-response rates that we'd like to see. And again, a lot of this is done in collaboration with the census effort.
So I'm actually pulling up data right now, Calvin, and I want to say I kind of glazed over when I first got the phone call. It was a couple city council people, and then finally you called me, Calvin. And it finally clicked in my head. Like I finally got what it means. Like I was like, the census, they're going to count everybody, whatever. But those two big fundamental things, this could be the most important thing. It's boring as a subject, okay? It's boring, but it might be the most impactful.
It's exciting.
I know it's exciting for you. I'm excited now, but the impact on the community, we've estimated that we may have lost up to $80 to $100 million for the Mid-South community in federal money. I mean, think about all the stuff that we could be doing with 80 to 100 million, like 10 million a year, roughly, $8 to $10 million a year of money that we don't have that is due us because we don't fill out the census. Now, the other thing is you get better representation on elected bodies. So think federal, think state governments. You want more elected officials because they can advocate for you. And so these census things have such long-term impact. And this group coming together and making this their first main mission, yeah, I got excited. I got on board, and we're helping to do that. And near the end of this, I'm going to explain to you what you all could do in your businesses, in your company, with your friends, your churches, nonprofits. We're going to get to that. but it's that massive millions of dollars. And Calvin or Duncan, we haven't talked about this before, but can you, maybe Calvin knows this, some of the federal programs that money could go to? Have you thought about all the additional things we could have done?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a good laundry list, Brian. I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, if you stop and think about just the crisis we're in now with COVID, the federal funds that's flowing into Memphis and Shelby County, flowing into the county school system, that's all predicated around the census numbers of 2010. So whatever we're getting is predicated on those numbers, and we might be getting more, to your point, for this crisis if we actually had a higher count in 2010. We don't know what the next crisis might be that hit this community, straight line tornado winds or New Madrid quake or whatever it might be, but we want to make sure that we have an appropriate count to ring that in. So if you look at things like healthcare, of the $17 billion that flow into the state of Tennessee, that comes in the way of Medicare and Medicaid payments that fuel into hospitals and the medical system. That comes in the way of dollars that go into workforce investment training. Just with with WIN alone, their budget of around $9 million a year is predicated upon the count. If you didn't have that $9 million a year into the workforce investment program, then all of the businesses that benefit from a trained workforce would have to come up with $9 million out of local dollars or $9 million out of private dollars to cover the workforce training and workforce investment needs that we have.
So Calvin, it's funny, I didn't even think about like the FEMA response, but you take like New Orleans. You know, hurricane comes in and they're going to get a certain amount of federal money based on their census count. And if we do have an earthquake, if we have a pandemic, if whatever it is, we're going to get less than a city that reports better, right? And
Correct.
This one rub I've always had with Nashville is, and they're going to get mad at me, I don't care, is the way they report their crime statistics are different than the way we report our crime statistics. And so sometimes it looks like we have artificially higher crime than they do, according to some stats. Well, if we underreport, we get less than they do. And I want to beat them. I want to get as much as we can for our community, right?
Yes.
So that FEMA thing is really, that's an interesting standpoint. But also, think about, can you talk a little bit about the representation element? Like right now, we have one congressman that really represents this community, and then we've got another one, but barely, they just kind of touch on it.
Right.
How would that change if we had better numbers?
Yeah, well, you know, prior to the 2010 census, Shelby County actually had certain elements of 3 different congressional seats, the 7th, 8th, and 9th. After the 2010 census, it went to having only 2, the 9th and part of the 8th. You also had a standpoint that there were 33 senators in the legislature, and of that, you had one of those that were in Shelby County. We lost the completeness of a Senate seat after the 2010 census, and could lose the portion of a Senate seat after 2020 if that's not counted right. That seat, what used to be held by Mark Norris, is now held by Senator Rose out of the next county. You know, should you have an undercount in Shelby County, those numbers then would be consolidated in and you'd lose the effect of another Senate seat. That drops down to the same House district seats that are in Shelby County, which again, you could have that quote redistricted out as well if you don't have an appropriate count, which means if you don't feel that Shelby County gets listened to or its fair share out of Nashville in the legislative context, where you're about to have the standpoint, if we don't do a complete count, that you're going to lose a couple of voices that's at least asking for that.
Yeah, so Duncan, I'm going to make this real for you, then I'm going to ask you some particular questions. So grass, tall grass on Germantown Parkway, tall grass on mediums near highways. Now, when we had control of the state Senate, they'd mow that grass on just true. They mowed the grass more. They kept those areas clean. Now, Germantown Parkway, just as an example, used to be maintained a lot more heavily by the state. Now they just, you've seen it, they don't maintain it like they should. If we could get more representatives to come and push the state government to give us our fair, equitable share, they'd help clean up their responsibility. And that's been a real rub since 2010 when we lost representation in this community. So that's just a way to kind of connect and make it, real. When you're driving down, you see tall grass, it's either property owner, it's a city, it's a county. There's another problem right there, right? Two governments. And then the state. And the state owns a lot more grass than you think in and around this community. And that's just one very small example of how that works. So, Duncan.
Yes, sir.
You guys have decided to mount a campaign. You want to get our numbers to accurately reflect what we are. Do you want to kind of tell us what some of the goals are and what we're hustling to do?
And I think it's great if you look on your chat thing, and I'm sure you're talking about Brian. I mean, currently, and Kim, thank you very much for sharing, but the city's at 53.6 response and the Shelby County's at 59.2. I think when we first started, Calvin and I pushed that we want to get to 75, but I think 65. I mean, I guess what was our reporting in 2010, Calvin? 65?
The reporting in Shelby County was 62.5%.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I got the numbers right in front of me, Calvin.
Yeah.
And it was 59.3 of the households that they thought were in the community. So,
Right. So we want to beat that. And if we can beat it during a pandemic, then there's no question it's going to put us ahead. If you look at our sister cities, i.e. Nashville or Cincinnati or St. Louis, they've got a little bit to jump on us. So we've got to get this thing going. I'm sure you'll touch a little bit on how the rules have kind of been changed as we've gone through this process. And it is hugely important for the business sector to get involved in this and to let us, as Brian continues to go through and Calvin continues to go through it, we want to make it easy for you. We want to make it easy for your employees. We want to make it easy for your friends to get the information out, but we need your help. And, that's where we are right now, to get our percentages up, to push this thing over the next 7 weeks or so and take it from there.
So just to frame the campaign, and anyone, Calvin, Dunk, you guys can jump in, is that the federal government does what they can do to get the census numbers accurate. Many cities, many communities do their own augmented campaign to get those numbers to accurately reflect. So a bunch of people came together. A lot of foundations are helping to fund it. Right. Duncan, Calvin, Gary Shorb, a few others came together to really bulldog this thing. They twisted my wrist, and I got excited. I really got excited about it because of the effect. So we have been live on running a campaign, and here's what it consists of, just to let you know. And we're asking churches, business owners, nonprofits, and I'm going to give a website in a minute. We're going to kind of walk through that really quickly to push out how to complete the census to their teams, or we can have somebody come in and help you with that. That's really where we need you. We need you to talk to all your friends, and we're going to give you the tools to do it. The second thing we're doing outside of that is we're doing call banking. We're going to guerrilla campaign events. We're going to food drop-offs, and we're having team members out there getting people to actively complete the census. Now, the government is getting door knockers to go house to house. And so the real carrot for your team, if you don't want somebody knocking on your door in the middle of the day bothering you, let's fill that census out. All right. So so that's the stick. And the carrot is, think about all the great stuff you do for the community. My wife filled it out immediately. She does not want anyone coming to our house. She'll pull a gun. She does not want, so she fill that census out. So fill that census out. So,
and Brian, I think another thing, you think about it, I mean, this is the most giving community in the country, right? We know that. If we get $8 or $10 million more dollars to our nonprofits, it also allows the business community to give that money maybe to more business too. As we've said at the chamber before, economic development is so important. What you talked about David's speech this morning, if y'all hadn't heard, you should hear. There's places we can spend that money that the private sector is now covering that can go somewhere else and help economic development, help the chamber for sure.
So where does it stand today? Our fearless CEO, Beverly, just kind of posted a question up. Just where does it stand today? Well, we're getting started, and I want to premise this. When the campaign was originally structured, we thought we had until October 31st. The federal government has cut that by a month. Does anyone want to pontificate why? Or I will say my opinion, Calvin.
Well, why don't we, instead of the whys, let's deal with the reality that it is. And that we've got 30 less days than what we would have anticipated having, which puts more of a sense of urgency, which is why we want our teams and all of our efforts to push people at now, that you complete the census now, that the business will ask its employees to complete their census now, because the awareness campaign is still being run by the Census Bureau as they have been doing. The enumerators are knocking on doors, but that sense of urgency of complete it now is the part that we really need, Brian, the business community and the business people on the call to take heart.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and this is why Calvin's a much more mature person. I'm very frustrated with the federal government for taking away a month of our opportunities to succeed, but we will crush the numbers nonetheless. And I will let everyone surmise why the federal government doesn't want to have our numbers up. Anyway, Calvin, let me tell you where the campaign started so I can answer Beverly's question. When the campaign started, the federal government had us at, I don't need to look at the 2010 numbers, but the current numbers. It started at about 58%. We've moved the county numbers up without what the door knockers are doing, without what the federal government's doing, just the self-reported individuals in the county by about 6,000 in a week. Great job, Wilson. And about 3,000 in the city. And the campaign is just getting started. We made about 22,000 initial contacts. Now, every campaign, I'm not going to bore anybody with this, got to have about 7 contacts before we start to get somebody off their couch and do something. So we have that baked into this campaign. But Amy Daniels, why don't you go ahead and share the website we'd like people to go to, and let me explain how you can just crush it and help your community get all this additional cash, right? So Amy Daniels is coming on. So the chamber, your team here has built a website. Now that's midsouthcensus.com. And I'm going to ask Amy to forward it out again to everyone. They sent it out a week ago, but there it is, midsouthcensus.com. Now, this is not the government's website to fill out the census, as Kim Wilson posted, and I appreciate that. But you can go, if you see that big complete the census here, that takes you to the federal government. That takes you to complete it. Now, individuals, we're having, just like Kim said on the chat, go directly to the government census and fill out. But here's what we need the leaders to do. If you'll scroll down a little bit where it says schedule your meeting, Amy, here's what business leaders do. You can say, I got a team. I got 3 people in my office. I got 25 people at my church. I got 10,000 people in my company. Whatever the number is, and I don't care if they live in Tipton, Fayette, Memphis, Shelby County, anywhere in the Mid-South, raises all ships. It raises all the ships, right? So we want you just to say, I would love to get my team to fill out the census. I'd love to help them not get a door knock in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. The census workers banging on your door. I don't think they'll do that, but so you can put down here, if you'd like to have one of the teammates get in touch with you, and what they'll do is, and it's even on the website too, there are tools, sample emails to send out to your team and your friends, sample video script, sample Facebook post, tweets, Twitters. Is there a TikTok? Is there a TikTok video?
We can add that.
There's no TikTok video, okay? But you'll see the templates that you can use down here to get things moving. You can do, this is kind of a do-it-yourself, or we can do it for you. This is what Duncan and Calvin have been out getting everything organized to do, is that you can see here, this explains exactly why they should fill this out. This explains the things that we've talked about. Most people don't need to know the length of a 25-minute long conference. What they need to know is you get more money from your community, you get more representation, and 3, you're not going to have somebody knock on your door. So bang it out, get it done, and we have these templates down. If anybody can think of additional things they need, that would be great. So what I am going to ask you to do right now is let's go back up to this schedule your meeting. If anyone wants to fill that out and say, man, I'd like to do a video conference call for my team, and either you can make the ask, heck, I'll make the ask, or somebody better than me like Wilson or Calvin can make the ask, right? If I want to see a sample flyer email, we have all these tools, and I don't want to keep reiterating this, so if you have questions, fire away. Now, Wendy asked a question, and I'm just going to read it. When you say the Mid-South, does that also include DeSoto in Mississippi? Well, here's what came up, Wendy. I had a great phone call with somebody who goes, a lot of my employees, I got 100 employees. I know you guys want to come out and get the census done you want me to send an email, but 80% of them don't live in Shelby County. They live in Tipton or Mississippi. And I said, great. We're going to rise all the ships. If we get 20 out of 80 to live in our area, that's great. And if we benefit the communities that surround ours, great. I just want to beat Nashville. So I'm not going to do this in Nashville. All right. See, Duncan he wants me to be nice to everybody. I want the Mid-South region's numbers to go up so all the community members here get better jobs and better access to resources from the federal government. So if you've got 2 people on your team, and let's get them to complete that census here, midsouthcensus.com. If they live in DeSoto, we'll take it, Wendy. Man, we'll take it. We want everybody to be counted. We want everybody to be counted, and that's super important. So, hopefully people kind of understand the structure. Calvin or Duncan, have I misframing this at all? Maybe if you guys want to kind of summarize this stuff done, we'll be done in 40 minutes. And I'll tell people what's going to happen, in September too.
No, Brian, I think you framed it well, and I think you put it in the aspect that everyone can help, and it benefits us as a city, as a county, as a region, and that the magic word on this really become now as a response standpoint. The Census Bureau do have some very good tools to look at, such as daily tracking. So we really can see the impact of our work on a daily basis as census forms are completed and as response rates go up. So we have these metrics that we can look at and determine whether we're making progress or whether we need to double down and bother everyone some more over the next few weeks. So it's a matter of acting now.
Yeah. Duncan?
Yeah, I think it's right. I think, it's so important for the business community to get involved in this. And we have the network, we have the emails, what Brian and the crew have done down there, and Amy and the rest of everybody working together, Yolanda, all this stuff. It's made it easy. They'll put the letter together for you to send out to your group. They'll put the letter for you to send out to your employees. They'll set up calls. They're doing all the stuff that we don't like to do. They've already done it for us. So it's really up to us now as business leaders to get this money in, to get this count in. So I would just say, please send this to your networks and ask them to send it to their networks and to send to their networks. It is hugely important. If you're an influencer at your place of worship, hugely important. If you're wherever we can get a group of people together, obviously legally, social distancing, doing it the right way, we want in that group. And that's the huge thing right now.
Duncan, I think you made a great thing, the social distancing. We're happy to have a church pastor or synagogue or whatever it is, stand on the pulpit and say, go to this website, fill it out, and complete it. It could be on a conference call. We can send a team to your location. They can walk around in mask and hazmat equipment and all that stuff and go around and ask people to fill it out. I mean, really, it's a total grassroots campaign. And I didn't have anything fun. I just thought about something fun. The first, 5 people, the first 5 people on this thing that will go in and fill out to have a meeting or have us come to the location, I will give you a book that I wrote. Ooh, only morons say no comment. It's about how to deal with the media and how to deal with crisis management. It's okay. It's like can hold a door open. It's kind of heavy, so it can do that. And I think next time I'll have Calvin maybe take you to lunch or something after the social distancing if you'll sign up. Maybe the first person to do that.
Is that an autograph book, Brian?
Yes, I will sign it.
Original copy.
I have a pen.
Yeah. I
have a pen in my hand. Look, I'm really trying to impress upon the nature of, if you all right now, midsouthcensus.com, and just say, look, I just want to know more. I want to know how I can help. Somebody will call you. It won't be me. Don't worry. Okay. You don't have to get stressed out. It'll be somebody nice like Jasmine. And she'll call you up and we'll walk you through the steps, and every little bit will help. And we're going to ask you, even if you have somebody to introduce us to, they have bodies, homeowner association, school, whatever it is. So Duncan, Calvin, really, really appreciate you guys doing this, volunteering your time. Awesome sauce. All right, team. Here's what's going to happen next. September 15th, this next Small Business Council, Lunch in the Know. I've got a few different topics to play with. I really would like you to send some emails about what you want to hear about. or I'll tell you more bike-related stories and how I'm going to break my ankle on a balancing board if you'd like to see that. So what I really appreciate what everyone's doing in the community. Invite others. Thanks to Independent Bank, you don't have to be a member of the chamber to enjoy this series. Anyone can do it. So, invite other people, and Amy put her email in there, so you can email her, adaniels@memphischamber.com, on suggestions, topics, and let us know your feedback. Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? The good and the bad, anything so that we can keep providing value to you. That's 37 minutes, Tunja. I did it, buddy. Everyone go and have a quick lunch before they get back to work. And thank you so much for joining us today. We'll keep you informed.